to Out of the Box Radio with me, your host, Christine Glasdale. Out of the Box Radio is a weekly podcast of audible ear candy dedicated to bringing a fresh perspective on this thing that we call life. And each and every week, we're going to be diving into the topics that matter most with lively conversations on issues such as health, wellness, and transformational healing, all with the goal of creating a better world and becoming a happier human being. I will be your tour guide for this epic adventure, and each and every week we're going to be embarking on a journey with the ultimate goal being transformation to our highest potential. And now, let's get out of the box. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Out of the Box Radio. I am so very happy to have my wonderful occasional co-host. I'd like to have her on as many times as possible. The wonderful Abigail Noel. She is a medical intuitive, psychic, wonderful soul, and she is here today. We're going to be talking about something very special, something that a lot of people have reached out to me to find out more about, and I thought we'd present it. Abigail Noel, welcome back to Out of the Box Radio.
Hey, Christine, thank you. Honored to be here as always. And I like to be on the show as often as I can as well. And just hanging out with you, my sister. I love you. Thank you for having me on again, and thanking the listeners ahead of time for listening. Support, man. It's been awesome.
The listeners love you. So I'm honored to have you back. And today we're going to do sort of a mini intensive, I guess, on it. It's not really about how to be psychic or how to be intuitive, but maybe more about how to hone in those skills, because as you've said before, we all have the ability, we all are intuitive beings, but let's face it, with everything that's going on in the world, how we react to the outside world, maybe our financial situation, our jobs, our relationships, it sort of throws us off course. And a lot of times we feel, or we seem to believe, that the world is happening to us and we don't have hardly any power or any control. And I want people to tap into that. And so that's why we're going to be doing this show today on how to hone in on those skills. Is that cool with you?
Oh man, I'm really, in fact, not only cool, but like super excited. Cause this is my passion. It's my passion. A lot of people, and let me say this, we say it a lot on the shows, but listeners, thank you guys all, man. And we love you for listening. So much love to you guys. Take everything that you hear from your head to your heart today and check and see if it's congruent. If they match, then it's your truth. If not, Christine and I are certainly not here to tell you your truth today. But man, this is my passion. And, God, who is love, didn't set out to start religion. If you found a box that you like to go into and it makes you feel good and you get jiggy, that's awesome. But you don't need to find God in a box or a house with a symbol or a sign on the outside. And you certainly don't need to follow any rules to get to where God lives. You just need to tap in to the present moment, tap into nature, tap into your own divine essence, to your heart space, and get out of your head. But yeah, this is my passion. So not just is it cool? Thank you, Christine. It's an honor to be able to share some things. And again, we've got the 1 hour show. So I would highly encourage people to just make this, if you hear something that clicks here today, this is just one step. We can only get so much out, in 3 hours, but it is not as difficult to be psychic as people think that it is. Actually, it's very simple. But what I love is what you were saying about how, we want to empower people in the way that we're dealing with life. If we knew that we all had the ability to be psychic, everyone is psychic. If we understood, and the science supports this theory now, science, quantum physics now knows that all of our brains are wired the same way. It doesn't mean that we all use them the same way. We don't. That's quite obvious. And no judgment there. It's just quite obvious. With that said, though, we now know that everyone is receiving an electrical current to the top of their brain, to their hypothalamus at all times. This is the great receiver, which then talks to the pituitary gland, which is like the movie camera for heaven. We have an imagination screen, a movie screen. We all go back. That's why the Bible, the book, talks about returning to the heart and mind of a child. If you want to hear God, you've got to go back to that place of wonder, where you're literally asking questions instead of thinking. And so when you talked about the way that we've been taught to deal with life, if we went back and we'd all been taught and knew confidently that we were not just supposed to have free will and free choice, that was to be paired with what's called divine guidance, that every person on the planet is psychic, that every person on the planet has a heavenly dialogue and divine guidance that they can tap into. But we've been taught, number one, to judge, to compare, and we've been taught that we're supposed to think and have answers, that we're supposed to learn and memorize answers. There's no need to memorize anything. There's when you learn that you can tap in to the beautiful wisdom of the collective consciousness, the wisdom of God. And when you lovingly ask from a place of surrender, not a place of control. We're not here to control things. We're here to observe and feel. And so when people start to learn that, it's not so difficult to become psychic and to tap into your divine guidance when you understand that not only is it possible for everyone, that was the grand plan. And if it was God's grand plan, then it's not so hard. It's a lot like learning how to play an instrument or learning a language. How good will you be? It depends how many hours you practice and how often you pick up the instrument.
Exactly. Now let's talk about, first of all, let's talk about the things, the things that hinder our psychic or intuitive abilities. The things that sort of block that flow of obviously the first one being like the belief that you don't have that capability. That would probably be a big one. But what about some other things?
Belief in psychics. That's why I don't like to use the word. And there's no judgment for the psychics. They were taught that they were special and there's only certain people on the planet. If they didn't believe that, then they wouldn't be charging $300 for a 45-minute session and then not teaching people that they can do it too. They didn't know. It's okay. Now we know differently, and science supports that everyone is psychic. So please drop your belief that there's any such thing as being psychic, that we're all psychic if we learn how to tap in, number one. Number two, the definition of psychic has been distorted in Love and Gratitude. And so this is not about being a medium. There's a difference. You can be psychic and not be a medium. That means talking to people who are dead. That, for some people that freaks them out. It's really not that scary, but that's another show. But this is not about being a medium. People come to me and ask me, I want to be a psychic. I want to talk to people who are. That's totally different. That's a job within itself, and that's where we've got to change that. So that's number two. Number three, you've got to remove judgment for anything, and be able to understand that most all of what we believe we know has been imprinted. These are thoughts and beliefs that we adopted because we were told it was true, and we either watched it and imprinted that belief, or we heard it and we believed it was true because it came from a source we were told to trust. Most of these beliefs that we adopt are given to us, or we adopt. It comes from a nature or a place of love. Doesn't mean that our parents meant any harm by it. They were doing their best to teach us, or our teachers, or other role models, and sometimes even heroes. We adopt certain beliefs that aren't true, even from our heroes, growing up and throughout life. Makes sense? So we've got to adopt, if that's a word, unadopt, let it all go with love. And it may come back to you as truth, but you have to first be willing to drop everything you believe is true, because God's truth is greater than what you will be able to imagine in your current state at any given time, because God has infinite possibilities. God is beyond anything that is imaginable with our human brain, no matter what. And I love it because we've said this before. It's something that you coined, which is love is the helium emotion, which means it's ever expanding, ever evolving. It never ends, just like this amazing race, life race. I say race, but I say that with loving nature. There's no time. No one's in a hurry. It's the tortoise that won the race. So that's the other thing too, guys. Do not judge. So don't judge your path. And you cannot be worried about being right or wrong. So that's 4 things. Forget what you believe about psychics. We're all psychic and science supports it. It's not about talking to dead people, guys. It's about hearing God and your spirit guides. It's about connecting there. You've got to connect to your heavenly team. And you've got to connect to your heavenly team. And it doesn't matter what your definition of God or religion is. It's not about that. God is not a religion or a box or a symbol. God is all things. And then, bam, we've got to drop everything you think you know and adopt the heart of a child. Those 4 things.
I love that. I love that. I love all of that. What, in your own experience, you've been doing this for many, many years, but what would you say are some things that throw you off course? Because I mean, you've practiced this for a long time. You know, you have that heart of the child. You're really good about not judging. I know we all kind of get pulled back into that every now and then. But but for you, what were some of the things that sort of blocked some of your intuition, some of your psychic abilities?
My own assumptions, which translate to expectations. I'll say expectations come first, and then what happens is we get to a place where we believe we've dropped all expectations, but we're still making assumptions we don't see. And so it's very hard to let go of everything you think you know and not realize that you're getting tripped up over things you think and not things you know. Let me explain the difference really quick, because I just kind of use those in a way that they don't go. So let me separate the 2 things. There's things that we think or believe, and then there's things that we know to be true. I love it because Carl Jung, the great Carl Jung, oh man, you guys, if you want to understand God, study Einstein's theory of relativity and Carl Jung's theory of synchronicity. Understand that the 2 work hand in hand. Both are always true. And when you wrap your mind around that, you will understand God in a great way. And if that doesn't work, you want to have more fun, just watch Star Trek and only listen to Spock. And you will understand how God works a lot better. With that said, because God is emotional, but not emotional in the way that we think, not reactive, but feels, if that makes sense. And so to get rid of the reaction, we have to drop everything we believe is true. You'll get hung up on that sometimes and think that it's something you know when it's actually something you think. What is the difference? And going back to Carl Jung is one time he was asked, and you can look this up, Google it. It's amazing to watch. There's some old footage, film, and it's live. And he asked him, he said, Professor Jung, he said, do you believe in God? And he turned and looks, and he said, I have no need to believe in anything. He said, I know God exists. And so when you tap into that oneness, things are validated in such a way for you that you just know that it is so. How do you know? Because you didn't know it before. It'll be something that's absolutely amazing. You'll be like, wow, I did not know that. It's like watching a movie and getting surprised. So therefore, then you just know that. That did not come from within. It came from without. I was surprised when I heard it. And when you work with tapping into this oneness, into God who is love, to this eternal wisdom of truth, you'll be surprised quite a bit. And then you'll know what will stop you, what will block you from getting to that place or kind of trick you sometimes when you're dealing with something that's emotional, and that can be personal to you in many ways. And most of the time I can separate, and I'll just give an example, but most often I can separate those emotions when I'm working with a client, because I've seen so many times how often a situation that seems tragic, and now 8 years professionally working this way, I've seen this so many times with people, that something that seems so tragic, I've had enough time with clients to watch things unfold that I see the beauty that comes from the tragedy and the pain. So a lot of times we make assumptions a lot of times and get in our way when we're dealing with our own love relationships. And the closer the love, and that's not just passionate love, it could be with our children or dear friends. Sometimes we're blind to things, or we make assumptions about people's actions and get disappointed. I hope I'm making sense.
Definitely.
When we're not able to be the observer and to make it less personal, when we're not able to fully surrender because of our own emotions, which can be with the best intent. That's all about the life experience. And God knows that each one of us, that's going to happen sometimes. And oftentimes it doesn't mean that your reading was wrong. Oftentimes the information you receive is accurate. Your interpretation, because it's like talking to God is like charades. Right? It's your interpretation that gets jacked up.
And when you are like, when you're in a session with someone and doing an intuitive and talking to them, can you talk about what you pick up? Because some people say with having the intuitive abilities, sometimes it's auditory, sometimes it's visual, sometimes it's something you can't even express. I know for me, sometimes it's like just it's like somebody speaking to me, but there's no voice. Is that weird?
Yes.
Or is that you?
No. Because there's let me ask them, and let me ask my guides, because I have never, not until this point, not in this life anyway. There's never a never, but in this life, I have not yet answered this question this way, and it's come up quite a bit over the last few months. There's two ways to hear and see spirit. They're calling it inner and outer auditory, inner and outer sight. And they're explaining it in this way. Spirit, depending on the level, the light body, which would be the vibration, how high the energy that is no longer in body vibrates. So, which is why they're telling me, so tying this back into what we're talking about is, how do you get to this place? You have got to connect to your spirit guides. There's a reason. God, who is love, whatever your definition of God is, mom and daddy love, most people on the planet believe in some form, no matter what their religion, or even, it's kind of funny because I even know some people who consider themselves atheists. That's just because they haven't been able to find a satisfactory definition of God yet on the planet, or a house or a symbol that satisfies them. And I understand that. But there are some atheists that believe that they'll say they're an atheist, but they still believe that there's a guiding force. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, what do you want to call that? You're not an atheist. Infinite love and gratitude. Most people believe in angels and or spirit guides. And most people believe in some of these mystical stories that involve angels. And so the first and foremost thing is, you've got to get connected to your angelic team. It'll be called a gatekeeper sometimes. Jokingly, my team calls it my right-hand man, my left-hand woman, your main man, whatever, your main squeeze, they're saying, whatever that is. But and the more playful you can be with this team, I mean, oh my gosh, it's just like your family here in the house. I mean, if you're a fun and happy person, ha ha ha, you're laughing and you're joking, that's a much more fun environment. Like, your guides want to have fun too, guys. So two things. You want to learn how to speak to God. Gosh darn, get connected with the beautiful angelic team of spirit guides and angels that Mama and Daddy Love sent you here with. Most of us believe in them. Great. Does it make sense that you'd have this amazing team of spirit guides and angels here to help guide you and protect you and keep you on the right path, but that we can't hear them and they can't hear us? So it's just like they're playing that song, Message in the Bottle. It's like, it'd be like thinking, we're just going to keep sending messages out in a bottle, like we're hanging out with Wilson on the raft, hoping somebody gets this. Like, that's stupid. If God, who is love, oh my God, I think they had a better plan than that. See what I'm saying? See, doesn't make any sense. So hook up with them and then have fun. No, like, literally, don't just believe. If belief is where you have to start, that's great, but you need to know that it is absolutely, this makes sense to you. If you're listening right now and you're like, hey, this sounds like truth, this makes me feel good. And if it makes you feel good to think that, yes, I can be psychic, I can talk to my spirit guides, I can get direction.
No, the beautiful thing is that, we all have that gut feeling. We all have that intuition. And
that's what it was.
We always not deny it, but
yes.
we always I don't know, we don't pay attention to it, or we say, nah, that can't be, but that's not necessarily true.
They're telling me, and this takes us back to where we were, I love it. You leave it to spirit, they just take you right back to the gap, right through the gap and back to point. So with that said, it's that we tend to dismiss the inner eye and the inner ear, which is your imagination. We talk about how children are so much more connected, how children will have these mystical experiences after a loved one crosses. They'll tell you they saw them, they came to me in a dream. I'm getting chills in flowing gratitude as I speak. They're still open. They haven't been taught to judge. Again, it goes back to like, what do you do? Drop all your judgment, guys. There's no harm being done. It's none of your business. It's none of your business. It doesn't matter. If no one's harming somebody of lesser power, everybody wants to be where they're at. Keep walking, man. Don't let it even bother you. Just wish them love and keep going. It's not your flavor of ice cream. Who cares? With that said, remove your judgment. Most of us do two things, because there's the inner eyes and ears. That's the imagination of a child. Good God, I use it all day long. Spirit would rather use your imagination, which is that beautiful, Dad's calling it electrical system that they set up. We now know that you receive electrical impulses that carry holographic images and emotions. We know this, that go in and hit the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus sends that signal, as I said, to the pituitary and to the limbic portion of the brain, which causes the rest of our body and every cell to feel the emotion that is sent, which will give us those full chills. And, a lot of people, what is that with the full chills? Well, guys, you can't conjure that. You can't stand here and go, I'm going to make myself have chills now. No, you can't do that. What you do is you can ask, hey, if that's accurate, give me the shivers, give me some neck sugar. Nothing wrong with it. I love to validate it with the science. I want to make sure I'm right. A lot of people, I know without having to have the shivers. Okay, well, I'm glad you're that confident. I humbly, ask to be corrected so I can make sure I'm right.
I think that the shivers or the hair, the hair standing up on end for me is like one of the most surest signs. Yes. Because what I do is in my head, what I'll do is I'll say,
Yep.
Actually, I don't even have to do it. If somebody will say something or I'll say, I have an idea for something, I'll go, oh, what about this? Or it comes in through something that's not me at all.
Yes.
Like many of our shows that we've done together, Abigail. First of all, people who are just tuning in, shame on you. You should have listened to the beginning. But no, if you're just tuning in, I'm Christine Blasdell. You're listening to Out of the Box Radio. And on with me is Abigail Noel. We're talking about honing in your psychic skills, becoming more psychic, learning how to use those tools, becoming more intuitive. And what I've found is that when something is really true, I mean, it's like the heavens above are screaming at me. Yes, yes, yes. The hair on my arms will stick up, my neck, the hair on the back of my neck. Sometimes I'll get the chills down the center of my, my upper, right where my heart is, I guess.
Heart chakra.
The heart chakra.
Heart chakra, yep.
And then sometimes when it's like full board, everything, the arms, everything will happen at the same time. And that's the hair raising or the shivers is what you're talking about, right?
Yes, absolutely. And science supports the theory that you cannot conjure that or create that reaction on your own. It has to come from, without. And going back, I was going to say this. So we have a tendency to dismiss the inner eyes and ears, which is in essence our imagination. They call it the heavenly movie screen. We have a tendency to be told, we're taught to dismiss it. And that's really all I have to say. Our listeners get that. We're told, oh, it's just your imagination. Oh, you just made that up. No, I'm sorry. The sky is blue. In flowing gratitude. Okay, great. There's always more to it than the sky is blue. We are taught to shut that down and start judging at a very early age. This is when your God connection started shutting down. And you lovingly demand that it be returned. Okay, that's one. Two, we get scared of the outer presentation. There's two things, because spirit can manifest. Yes, I have seen. It's not the same as seeing a body standing right in front of you in third dimensional form that you can touch and feel. You realize they're in another dimension. You see them through sort of a fog, sort of light. There's a lot of gold and white light. That normally it's somebody from the fifth dimension or someone who vibrates high enough will have that around them. Someone in the fourth dimension will not. That's another thing, guys. Until you have your gatekeeper and your team established and you are in communication with your spirit guides and your angelic realm, your forces and your protectors, not that there's any fear. It's protecting you from you. Infinite love and gratitude is what they're doing. They're protecting you from your own damn fears. But until you have the confidence to talk to your team, you have no business talking to spirit, just random people who are dead, okay? And if they're not surrounded in white and gold light, then you ask for your team, or it's all you have to do. It doesn't matter. You can ask for John Lennon, for God's sakes, or Prince to come in and help you out. Just make sure that they're surrounded in a white and gold light. How do you know? Just ask to see. And just start trusting what you see. No one can develop your trust for you. And the only way that you will develop your trust is by trying it and not being afraid to be wrong. What prevents people from hearing God? They're so afraid of two things. You're so stopped up with your own judgment that you're afraid of being judged. That's okay. It's how we all start. Start peeling back the layers, folks. Start peeling back, recognizing your judgment and dumping it out. Realize if you're judging somebody else for anything or not forgiving them, then you've got to find out what you are judging about yourself and not forgiving within yourself. What does that have to do with hearing God? Everything. Everything. God only speaks to a clear bell. It's so funny because there's so many people, and you guys, no judgment. I'm going to speak the truth and I'm going to make a statement here real quick. It's the boxes. Especially with the crosses, but with all of the symbols across the damn board that have scared you guys. They tell you to dismiss your imagination and they scare you of the outer presentation. Spirit can manifest and you can hear a voice from without. I do. It's called direct channel communication. There are mediums, there are channels, there are prophets. Anyone can awaken to their divine state and be any one of these things. You can fill out a job application. You can send it to heaven. Or to the North Pole. You can give it to Santa and he'll get it to Daddy. But you can tell him you want to apply for any of those jobs if you choose. And then believe me, if you are open, willing, and ready, God will come and put you through the tests that he puts everybody through to make sure your heart is tried and true. And you can be a medium, channel, or a prophet too. Infinite love and gratitude. It's just the way that it works. Most people don't want those jobs. They just want their divine guidance and they want to get to their destiny path, which most often involves the most amazing lives I've ever seen. I've watched people turn around, and that's a really great place to point to bring up is that you're not tapping into your divine guidance to be a psychic to talk to dead people, folks.
Right.
You're tapping in so that God can tell you what you came here to do. And it's more amazing than you could possibly imagine. God couldn't possibly tell you what you really came here to do. It would blow your mind right now. You got to have it little by little. And man, I'm so excited to say that, Christine, you've got episodes being picked up by iHeartRadio, and 9 months ago, God showed that you would get it. You would get this platform, and here you are, man. Bam.
And that was something that from the very beginning, Abigail, you saw this, you knew it was going to happen. I was like, no, I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know what you're talking about. I knew that I needed to expand the show and to get more people to hear it, but I really didn't know it was going to happen that fast. But Abigail knew. And on that point, not only about the wonderful work that you do, how spot on you are, but also about the exciting possibilities that people have to really truly go on an adventure of developing their intuitive skills, their psychic skills. You have something, we have something really special that we want to make an announcement about for a first time session with you, so people can tap into those skills, so they can begin that amazing journey. Why don't you tell the listeners what you're going to offer today?
We're going to do a half off first time for Out of the Box. And
awesome.
Something just dropped down to me right now. So I'll do it in kind of three ways that people can do it, or they can split it up any way they want to. They can do anything they want, but really, as you were talking, you showed me to offer something to also do a 3-hour special. So if somebody wants to do half off, and there'll be a special Out of the Box key, I will put a tab and a little box on the front of my website as well, so it'll be there on the website. and you can click there. So you can do an hour session or an hour and a half session at half off, or you can do a special 3-hour sort of package, which we'll divide into two. Or it can apply towards the class, because I do the online Google Hangout classes. We call them they're really guidance portals, but psychic portals. And what's great about a lot of people think, no, I'd rather have a one-on-one. That's great, because we can make on the one-on-ones. What we do is we check chakras, and we clear any energetic and emotional blocks that are there, whatever, as much as is allowable. Most often I work on an hour and a half session, but if somebody wants to just do an hour, that's okay. I really don't watch the clock. Spirit does it for me. Going back to the last piece, though, is the 3 hours would be great, because that would be 2 sessions, or it would be the 3-hour class, Psychic Portals. And the Psychic Portals I love because, and I really feel, but please go which direction you're guided, guys. It doesn't matter to me. Your heart will know. But I love the portals. I watch people when they're ready make just, oh my gosh, the progress that people make on the portals is exponential. And they're powerful because you're on there with myself and 8 other people from sometimes all over the world, but definitely all over the country. And the opportunity to validate that you are psychic in that 3-hour time span is exponential. Again, it's just huge. And who knows what goes on those classes. We have spirits come through, sometimes somebody's grandmother or father or brother. And the way that it's validated for people that they're psychic is amazing. And so people can leave a 3-hour class on a Saturday, and you attend the class from your home, from your computer, or from your, from your phone. Even you can tap on Google Hangouts from your iPhone or your notebook or whatever it is, your iPad. And sometimes in that 3-hour class, depending on if that person, how ready, willing, and able that person is, they're on their way to psychic on that 3-hour class. Like literally, that's all some people need.
Wow. So listeners listeners have their choice. Really, they can have.
Right.
I mean, they can have. They can sign up for a class, part of a 3-hour class. They can do a one-on-one session with you. All they have to do, and get 50% off, which is huge. For this is for out of the box listeners only. Remember, folks, you need to go to. There'll be a key. There'll be something at the front page of Abigail's website. And Abigail, go ahead and give your website address, please.
Sure, it's at www.abigailnoel.com. ABIGAILNOEL.com. And also, just to let listeners know, and from my heart, I'm just, I'm called to work that way, but the half off, it's $85 for an hour. So half off makes it so affordable for people. So guys, please don't feel like this is something that's out of your reach. A lot of people, and again, no judgment. It's the way people believe, and I understand placing a value on what you do, but I'm really called to work as a ministry. So I do my best to balance time and that monetary, system that we're in to make it something that's affordable for people.
And people you'll get so much out of, even if you chose to do a one-on-one, and that can be through Skype or the telephone, you get so much out of just even that one session. And it doesn't matter if you want to just talk about developing your skills, your intuitive skills, find out from Abigail what her guides are telling you or telling her for you, but also if you just want to do a straight up session and you want to, you're at a crossroads in your life, you it's a relationship situation or a twin heart soulmate situation or work, career, or maybe someone has passed and you do want to connect with them, or you want to know if there is any messages or anything from a loved one who has passed on to the other side. So really you can customize that first session that you get, that 50% off first session, you can customize it to what you want. So do go to AbigailNoel.com, ABIGAILNOEL.com, and look for the Out of the Box Radio little key, and you'll be able to hook yourself up right there and connect with Abigail. Abby, I wanted to find out from you if some of the people that you've worked with, especially folks who maybe had absolutely no clue that they were intuitive or psychic, maybe they came to you for guidance, but after working with you, after having some sessions with you, can you talk about you don't have to name them, but can you talk about people who have who have really developed that skill and have gone on and what they've done?
So, you know, I mean, I'll give a couple examples that come to mind right away, but we could talk about that for the next 3 or 4 hours. I could go over names and scenarios of people who have awakened to their psychic abilities, their divine guidance, as my team asked me to call it, and gone on to use that in various ways. And what I love about it is some of them have gone on to use it very openly as a healer and a medium and a channel. Others have gone on to use their guidance. One gal, beautiful. She wouldn't mind me at all using her full name, actually, but Shelby is an art student. She graduated about a year ago, and she was brought to me actually through spirit when her father crossed his body, presented with cancer, and he went home. She was 21 years old and considered herself an atheist at the time. Not that, again, God, I do not align with any particular religion, no box, no symbol, as Christ Yeshua did not either. And really, there is no ascended that aligned himself with a religion. It's pretty interesting to look at, but there's no ascended master that aligned with a specific religion, and neither does God. But with that said, she did consider herself an atheist and did not have a relationship with God, who is love, or with that divine wisdom. And she now does. She uses it in her artwork. And oh my God, she's incredible. There's nothing this girl does not do. She does pottery. She does pen and ink. She paints. She is one of the most photography. She works with the spirit of Ansel Adams. She knows this and speaks to him on a regular basis. She's seen past lives with him. She could use her abilities as a medium if she chose to, but it's not what she's here to do. On the flip side, I've got Camille. Beautiful. She's a nurse. She just got her RN. Oh, man. She came to me with some personal, as we all do, personal love challenges. And her mother was going to cross. Her mother was ill. Her grandfather had just crossed. And I was going to say this in the readings. What's beautiful is that often all of that comes up. We have a loved one come through. We have a past life that needs to be clear. We get some direction for their future. We clear some emotions. We work the science and the subconscious mind. It's really beautiful. But all of that will most often happen in a session. But I do check in with the client because I'm asked to see what direction they'd like to go in to make sure that that's covered. And then so much more gets covered. But going back to Camille, when she came to me, she didn't even know that people could be psychic. She thought she was going to an intuitive, I call myself an intuitive therapist, and she understood that, as someone that's kind of, like a life coach, but I work a little bit more with the science than that. And so a little bit more on the physical, medical, energetic side as well. With that said, she came to me for those purposes, and she is now on what we call the radical healing portal. She's one of the clearest. You've met her. She's one of the clearest channels on the planet, and she works with God daily on her destiny. She knows we know what's going to happen in the next 18 months. Well, as much as you can know. There's free will and free choice, but in Plum Gratitude, when you vibrate that high and you stay that present and your divine guidance is so clear that literally you only have to worry. There's only maybe 11% or less for people who are working with their divine guidance that happens in your life that's going to even be a little bit off plan. Makes sense? Which is no different than making a movie. It's how God shows me all the time. You take a movie contract or a role, and that movie starts out, you read the script, you think it's going to go one way. Sometimes it changes a little, sometimes it changes a lot, but it's still a great movie. Our life will go like that too. And the more conscious you are, it doesn't matter if it changes, it's still going to be great. God takes anything that's taken away or any change, no matter, and if it's the more traumatic, you might have to wait a while. And yes, it will require patience and pain, but it will always be restored to a greater place. That is the laws and principles of the universe. It's like we all talk about this stuff and the laws of attraction, but good God, guys, please apply it to your life for real. The universe takes nothing that is not returned tenfold or more if you allow, through your vibration, through acceptance alone. If you can then offer forgiveness, bam, I mean, it just goes up exponentially. And if you ride in that place, you won't be able to help but hear God. You won't be able to help it. Then it's a matter of just having that team, that basis, that teacher at the time for you to tap into and validate that what you're hearing is accurate. And that's it. And pretty soon, man, I've just watched so many people on the go. Camille absolutely knows where her life is going, the business that she'll be starting, how she'll be using her earthly tools as well as her divine guidance to assist people, because that's what we're all here to do in one way or another.
I think it's important to also reiterate the fact that whenever we're faced with, listen, we're always faced with all kinds of obstacles in life, and what some people would call, setbacks or challenges. How's that? Challenges in life. And I think the hardest thing to do for a lot of people, and for me, myself included, okay, is to not get swept up in that chaos. That's what it is. It's chaos. And if we can center ourselves, go back into our intuition, and know that we are going to be okay through it all, have faith that we're going to be okay through it all, then beautiful things happen out of that. But it's really kind of hard, sometimes when you're in a storm, to think that, the sunny day is going to come again. But energy attracts energy, right?
Here's what's funny. And so I feel like some people are going to go, they might not. I just feel like I can hear it already. But here's the first thing. First, no, challenges and setbacks create heroes. So you can think about any movie you go to that's like the hero. You know what I'm saying? Da, da, da. Oh my gosh, they have to almost die before they come back. That's real. Okay? So that's the first thing. The more setbacks, the bigger your destiny is. Your opposition is only as great. Okay? So that's the first thing. Then remember that we're all badasses. We came here to take as many hits as we possibly can. That makes a good freaking movie. Make sense? Mm-hmm. But we want people hanging on the edge of their seat to see if we're going to make it. Gratitude, right? That's when you know you're going to make it. When almost no one believes in you, that's when you're going to make it. When everyone's given up and you're still running, it's Rocky. Da da da. I had the tiger, man. Gratitude. So for anyone hanging on the edge of your seat right now, and you figure like you're about to throw in the towel, you're just going to give up. Nah. Start looking for tigers everywhere. That's how you tap in. It's no joke. Start giving 30 minutes a day at least, and lovingly demand that your psychic abilities be turned back on. Ask to tap into your team. Ask to tap into your team. Ask to speak to your spirit guides. And I don't know if we want to go more in depth in that. That a lot of that will be covered on the classes, how to really connect to your team. But seriously, you guys, start looking for that. The tiger's a big deal about symbolically about coming back, owning your power. Goes a lot with the phoenix rising from the fire, and literally just beating opposition and these principles. So start looking for that in your daily dialogue. It's a lot more fun to look for tigers and to hear the music or whatever than to stay worried about who's going to be president in November, because you can't do a damn thing about it. You know what I'm saying? So switch that, make it fun. That's how you start becoming conscious. If you start looking for those things in your conscious reality, then you'll start hearing God, because you stay in the present moment instead of up in your mind worried about what didn't happen yesterday or what might not happen tomorrow. Makes sense? And then the last place on that I was going to say that people might not like, and I guess that was it, is just that we contract those tough waves. If we start to just learn kind of to embrace them, to embrace the waves, to understand that the only reason we feel like we're drowning in life is because we don't understand we're here to surf, and that we can. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the only thing that creates that feeling of like, oh my God, and I won't say the only thing. There, sometimes life is just hard. Gratitude, and that's when you grab a friend. You call a friend, like we do. Christine, we'll tell the listeners. I always tell them, if I ever call Christine, and you've fallen off the bus, then I'm in trouble. So I have to do my check-in and make sure you're still on the crazy train.
I fall off the bus every now and then. I do.
But you know what? We always get back up and get back on.
Yeah. So again, we want to just remind people too, if this if this kind of adventure sounds exciting to you, it's not outside of your realm. It's not something that other people have the ability to be intuitive, to be psychic. We all have it. It's been stuffed down. It's been, squashed. It's been poo-pooed. We've been just brainwashed to believe that we are really, helpless in a lot of respects, and that we don't have these abilities, or someone else has to have those, that we can work through. It used to be the priest, right? We'd have to talk to God through the priest or whoever. So if you're interested in this at all, and I think it's an adventure of a lifetime. You think about all the trips that you've taken, or that you want to take, or, going on a cruise. That's nothing compared to this kind of journey, this kind of real wild adventure. So we want to remind people too that if you want to get started on this, if you want to take a class, if you want to do a 3-hour class with Abigail Noel, or a one-on-one session, you can basically make your own package. You can do whatever you like. If you go to abigailnoel.com, that's ABIGAIL Noel, NOEL.com, on the front page, there's going to be a little key there that'll be Out of the Box Radio. For only our Out of the Box Radio listeners, you're going to get 50% off your first session. Now, after that, I'm telling you, you're going to be addicted to Abigail, because as I am, I go to Abigail for everything from career questions I have, relationships, health. She's a medical intuitive as well. So if you want to develop your intuitive skills, great. If you just want to have a session and say, Abigail, what is going on in my life, girl? Can you help me out? That's fine too. And you can just go to abigailnoel.com and look for the Out of the Box Radio little key there to get your 50% off. I think that is a great way to get people in and started on this really amazing journey, Abby. So thank you for that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I love being on the show, and it's kind of, we started out there. It's my absolute passion. It just absolutely, it makes my heart smile. I guess that's the way I would say it. Every time I watch somebody have that aha moment where they go, oh my, I'm psychic. Yeah, welcome home, amazing. So the more and that's what I'm here to do. Once you plug into your dialogue and you plug into what you're here to do, man, you just can't help swimming all the time. You know what I mean? Then you want to be on the surfboard all the time. And that's it's beautiful, because I got to tell you, that's what it goes back to, is it's really just our judgment of the journey that creates the trauma and the sadness for the most part. Makes sense? Like we could reduce that by so much. And when you reduce the volume on the trauma in your life and understand that it's our judgment, sometimes it's purely our judgment of death. It's like, so often I've done readings over the last 8 years, kind of wandering here, but I feel like we're supposed to go here for a minute, and it's quick, but gosh, over the last 8 years, I've done so many readings where you actually see that this appeared so traumatic, but it's exactly the time that spirit, that soul wanted to return home, to the fifth dimension and or beyond, whatever that is, for whatever reasons. And it was only our judgment here that created the pain. And so when we become that observer and we turn the volume down on the pain and that judgment, so when a lot of people tend to think of judgment as just pointing fingers at people, no, it's about judging the trauma in our lives. It's very, very hard to do that. But if you can turn down the pain volume and therefore, that chatter that tells us that life is so horrible, you'll start to hear God in a much more pronounced way.
And you know what? Also, I think the having the ability to look at things that maybe someone on the outside would look as tragic or a negative, and looking at taking a different look at it and being grateful. Like, I mean, for me, with past relationships that didn't work out, or that, something happened, or even something as basic as, if my parents were divorced when I was really young, and people used to say, oh, that's so tragic that, your parents divorced. I was like, no, that's a great thing, because, if they were together, it would have been a very stress-filled home. And the same thing about relationships that haven't worked out. In the beginning, yes, it hurts. It hurts because your ego is involved. You have expectations of that other person. You want so badly for something to happen. Or you may go, I just feel this with all of my might. And when those relationships don't work out or something happens, it really is to move you into another place, not necessarily to be with someone else, but to put you to a place where you are honored, that you honor yourself, that you respect yourself enough as well. But it's just kind of forcing the hand a little bit. And once you look at it that way, right? Once you look at it that way, things change.
Yeah, because it's all vibration. It truly is. And science is God's. And when you look at emotion and what we choose to feel and whether we choose to respond or to react, I always feel like I have to say this. That doesn't mean that I don't react sometimes. We're all down here on planet Earth, and we're going to react on occasion. It's how quick do you catch it and flip it, as they say, flip it. Find out if I reacted, then I have to find out what I'm taking personally, or what I got going on that day, because it's me, not the outside source. It's me always. Be the change you want to see. Will I say this? But always, even if it's part of that 22 or less percentile of free will and free choice, any rejection and or loss, that could be like loss of a job or a promotion you thought you were supposed to get but didn't get. Anything that looks like it's a takeaway is never that. Rejection is always a promotion if we allow. Loss is always a gain if we allow. And again, sometimes does it take time? Yes. In fact, the bigger the loss, the more time it takes to come back up. But literally, the lower you fall, the higher you rise. That's science. And the laws and principles of the universe, which is God's science, dictate that is so. So always, rejection is a promotion. If a relationship doesn't work out in my own personal life, and I'm sure almost all the listeners will probably relate to this when I say it, I've been able to look back, going through 5 now reflective twin heart partners. We only have 6. I'm at the place where I just would prefer not to take the last class. With that said, I've gone through 5 in 22 years. And with that said, every rejection, and they weren't all rejections, there will be one that you'll turn down and one that will reject you each time, whether we're dancing with 2, 4, or 6 partners. With that said, each time the rejection has always, when I look back, I see how each relationship would have blocked my ability to become my authentic self. I recognized ways sometimes years later that I was agreeing to compromise myself, and I didn't even know that's what I was doing at the time. And I thought, I really believed that I've been standing in my power for at least the last 4 to 6 years. In my head, I was like, oh, I got this. I got this. And then 2-3 years would go by and I'd be like, damn, I was compromising myself. And we are not called to compromise ourselves in any way, shape, or form. And the only time that you will bring in the type of relationship into your life and also hear God clearly, it's both. Both is when you literally let go of the need to compromise yourself, which translates to still seeking approval from the outside, which then translates to judgment of self, which translates to afraid to being wrong, which translates to thinking too much, which blocks your ability to hear God. And if we heard God, we'd be taking all of our classes in life, including these really hard love classes, in a different way. And we'd be processing the emotions in a different way. And the pain would be different. The pain would have a purpose. And that's really what creates most of the havoc in our lives, and the confusion is when we are not able to see the purpose in the pain and the trauma.
That's important. That's important.
Mm-hmm. It keeps coming up, so I'll share, and it's a quick story, but I worked with a woman, Kathy, in California, and she's been on the psychic portals, and amazing. Her daughter, Kaylin, through a medical mishap, doctor mistake, when she was a baby, she was paralyzed from the neck down. And Kathy was told she would only live, maybe 7 or 8. Kaylin lived to be 15. She crossed almost 2 years ago. And I've been honored to help Kathy learn to communicate with her daughter, Kaylin. And in essence, what Kathy learned was that all of those years taking care of her daughter, Kaylin, that for 15 years she had to learn to communicate with her daughter who couldn't speak. She could only talk through her eyes. through her eyes. What Kathy learned was that learning to communicate with her daughter that way was the same way that you learn to communicate with God. You literally learn to see with the inner eyes. You learn to see. I see God's face all the time. I see Christ Yeshua's face, if that's who I connect with, somebody's grandfather on the other side, Princess Diana. It doesn't matter. When I go to talk to them, I want to see their eyes. If we learn to look into each of our eyes, we learn to be able to communicate with our brothers and sisters here in body on a God level. Make sense?
Yes.
And so you got to ask to do that within your own self as well. So Kathy literally learned that God took a bad experience, a trauma. I want to say bad, that implies judgment. God took something traumatic. I mean, how much more traumatic could it be than having your child paralyzed by a doctor mistake, a medical mistake? And then she was required to forgive that doctor who didn't mean to do what he did. Invoke gratitude, and then raise a child who's in a wheelchair, special needs, for 15 years, and take care of 2 other children at the same time, and a husband. Really rough years for her, hard time. And now she's working as she's setting the platform right now. She's always had a love for astrology, and she's found out that God was using that situation to prepare her, to teach her that she's psychic, that she can use that same way she learned to communicate with her daughter, to communicate with all her brothers and sisters, because we're all one. And she can just tap right in. And she's now using her love for astrology to do these amazing readings. She gave me the most amazing astrological reading I've ever had in my life, because this woman is so in tune to hearing God speak, because she learned to do it through her daughter.
And
who was in a wheelchair. Isn't that great?
That is beautiful. And that's a wonderful way to wrap up the show, because I want to encourage people to find out more about their own gifts. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And you can share it with, not only can you utilize it in your own life with whatever you're going through, but also to help others. I think we're here to help others, really. And so I want to encourage people to take that journey, to learn more about your intuitive skills, your psychic abilities that we all have. We just need maybe a little guidance. And I couldn't think of a better person to bring you into that than Abigail Noel. She is offering to you for a first-time session. And you can kind of customize it if you want to do a 3-hour Google Hangout with other people that are learning and discovering their own talents. You can do that, or you can do a one-on-one session with Abigail. Go to her website. She is offering an incredible discount to you for a first-time session. Out of the box listeners, go to abigailnoel.com, Abigail Noel, Noel.com, and look for the Out of the Box Radio little key, and then you will be given a discount on that first-time session. So please do. There's a reason why you were listening to the show today. There's a reason why you were hearing it, and I hope that you right now are getting the goosebumps or the hairs sticking up, because I am right now. So
Yay!
That's beautiful. Yay!
Awesome. That means I'll be watching more and more people connecting and getting to their destinies.
Yes.
And it's amazing to watch people. It's amazing. Life-changing changes. It's great. I'm honored. Thank you so much, Christine. I love you.
I love
you.
you.
Love you. I will see you soon.
Yes. And I want to thank you again. I want to thank Abigail Noel, who has been with us this hour. If you want more information, of course, always go to abigailnoel.com. She's also on Facebook. So thanks again, Abby. I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you. I love you. Thank you, listeners. Mwah.
Mwah, mwah. I want to thank you all for listening, and remember to tune in next week for another installment of Out of the Box Radio. I just want to remind folks, if you love this show and you want to share it with others, which I think you should, please remember to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel Out of the Box with Christine, and you can share this actual show through email, social media. It's really easy to do. You can share the link super, super easily. I want to thank you, listeners, for tuning in. And remember, as I always say, to think outside of the box. Until next week, bye for now.